Hi there. So what we're going to do this evening is we're just going to take you through a few of the example tasks that we did on Tuesday. So if you missed Tuesday's lesson or you just need a bit of a refresher that you'd like to practice before this Tuesday session, you can follow through with me. Okay, on Moodle there were 4 files if you recall for colour change. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to work through a couple of these. So I'm just going to open the address JPEG folder picture that I downloaded previously, and we've got a nice red dress. Now, one of the first things we went through was did a few selection tools. So on the left hand side, I'm going to make sure I've got magnetic lasso tool open. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to draw around my dress. So it's a quick left click and let go, and then you just drag it around and it should snap. So when I get to a corner, what I like to do, I like to actually do a left click and it sets an anchor point for me, if you saw that. So I'll do another left click now, it sets an anchor point, left click. It means that it snaps around the corners quite nicely. So a couple more clicks, let it go all the way around. This shouldn't need to be a click because it should take that, but I'll click there and I'll click there and then drag it all the way up. So it'll be nice and quick. When I get to the strap, I'm going to have to do a click and a click and a click and a click to make sure I get it nice and tight into there. So it's selected OK. Click, click, and finish off my mask, my lasso, and you get what's called the crawling ants. So that means that's all selected now. If I hold down Alt and scroll in, I'll show you a few more little tricks that we didn't that we didn't cover the week before. You notice up in the left you can have add to selection or subtract from selection. So for example, say I selected one of these straps that I didn't want. What I've done, I selected this marquee. So I'll select now, I subtract from selection. If I open that now and drag it around and drop, you see it's removed that. I can remove the other strap as well. So my selection, so what I'm doing now, instead of making a selection, I'm removing the bit I selected from my previous selection. I could do it here as well. I could take a square out, I could take a square out. So these bits now, here and here, aren't selected. I can add them back in. So if I click here, the double box, add to selection, if I drag around this bit that isn't selected, it's now selected, and I can do the same here. So that's now selected. However, I've deselected the straps, so I can add them back in. You can use this add to selection with any of these selection tools. So I've got my magnetic lasso tool selected. If I now start from here, go up to the strap, come back down and close it, it's now got that strap, and I can do the same here. Now that's what I wanted to show you. So I've made an error there, so I don't want that selected. So what I do, I go back to where I want to pick up from, and I just press the backspace delete key. That's the one with the arrow pointing left around the top right hand corner of your main keyboard. If I just press the delete key, you can see it deleting the anchor points, and eventually that's now snapped back to where I wanted to go. So I can come down here, go down here. Now what I want to do, because I want this bit selected, I'm going to click around it so I enclose that part I want selected, finish off my magnetic lasso tool, and I now have a complete mask. Sorry, a complete section. So now what I'm going to do, so I never have to do that again, I'm going to go to select from the menu. I'm going to save that selection, and I will just call it dress. Now what that means is if I unselect, which I think is Control D, there you go. So I've deselected with Control D. Now instead of having to draw around all that again now, I can just go to select, load selection, click my address. I've only got one save, so you can see that there, and then I click OK, I have my dress selection. Now what I want to do now is this is currently saved as a JPEG. I want to save this file as a PSD file. What that does, it not only saves my edits, it also saves any selections I've saved. So it saves the picture and all details about any edits you've made. So that would include any layers or anything like that. Now what I'm going to do, just going to unlock my background. So there's no padlock here. Now in the right hand panel you can see I've got some adjustments that I can make. So I've got my crawling ant selection made. I'm going to click hue and I get this little box. Now what you can do, I can change my selection in my colours. So I can have a turquoise, light blue, dark blue, purple. I think it's rather funky. So what it's doing, it's just applying your hue, which is basically your colours, to the item you just selected and leaves everything else alone. There's a little colorize button here. If I click colorize, what that tends to do, it tends to make the on some pictures stronger and some pictures the colours less. So when I've got colorize selected, it's not quite as strong, it's more like a pastel-y. If I unselect it, I now get some very, very bold colours. So you can have a play with it. Not everything works, you notice sometimes, like I've got a bit of a yellow, you can see some artifacts appearing. This because the photos I've downloaded aren't very high quality. If you're using your own camera, that'd be a lot quality. You can add saturation, so I can make the colour very strong, or I can remove a lot of colour. Basically, I've now just removed all my saturation, so all the colours will just be grey, because a colour with no colour is grey. So if I move my saturation back up, I get some really, really vivid colours. I can add some lightness to it. If I max it out, obviously everything's now just white. But if I can, I can darken these colours down and get some really rich colours. But the thing I like about this, when you make a selection and just change the hue, is you preserve all your details. You've got the stitching and the pleats and the skirt and the shadows. It's very, 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 very useful, and you can use this on anything as well. So that's the dress. That's the easy one. Feel free to have a play with any of the other adjustment tools. I'll just show you one. So I'm going to click my layer, my hue saturation layer, and click delete. I'm going to load my selection again. So I'm going to go dress, OK. So I've got my selection again, and this time I'm going to maybe select, we'll select curves, because this is another way of changing colour. RGB stands for red, green and blue. If you combine any colours, red, green and blue, you can make any other colour. So what I can do now, I can just concentrate on adding red or removing red. So if I remove all my red from here, that's a very, very dark colour. But what I can do, I can now go to green and I can add some green. That's actually not working very well. So I'll go back to red and add a little bit more red. So that's the dark. So go back to green. I can add a bit more green. And then I can go to blue, add more blue, more purple. So you can see the way some things are more suitable for certain colours. This curves isn't working very well for this dress, so I probably wouldn't use that. But just have a play with them. You've got brightness, you can change colour mixes, you can actually just change, you can invert the colours. Yeah, it's quite cool. So feel free, load your selection and have a play with each of these adjustment layers. That's what we're creating now. This, where it says curves 1, is an adjustment layer. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to load up another picture that we can just have a play with. So I think this time, I think the shoes are quite interesting because it shows you about how accurate you need to be when you select this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold down Alt, scroll my mouse wheel so I can get a nice big picture, so I can be very accurate on my selections. So I'm going to select my Magic Wand tool. I want to make sure I've got my normal selection selected at the top now. So I'm just going to draw around the shoe, but I'll show you where it has some issues. In fact, I'm going to start at this top corner because I think this will be useful. So I'm going to go round, all the way round here. I'm going to click there because I'll leave that little pad at the bottom black. So then I'm going to go up, I'm going to come down, but this time I want to make sure I stick on the black part of the shoe, because of course these are Louboutins. Louboutins always have red soles, so my wife tells me. Now, can you see what that did there? There isn't much of a contrast in that area. So what it's done, it's selected the between the contrast between the red and the white, because that's a stronger contrast than the red and the black. So as before, I'm going to move my mouse back and I'm going to press delete to get rid of those anchor points. So I want to start from here, but this time I don't want to let it snap on its own. I want to tell it where it's going to go. So what I'm doing, I'm just left clicking on the contour, the contrast line here, and I'm telling the computer, the application, what to do. So now I've got a bit of contrast, I can let it make its own mind up again. Oh, it's done it again there, see? So I want to go back to where I was, press delete, and then I want to left click to make it go. I'm probably going to do this all the way up till the front of the shoe as well, just to make sure it's holding. See even little small movements like that, it's still trying to get onto the red and white. Right, so now I can go all the way around, and you'll notice we have another issue here. You can see the reflection on the shoe. It removes the contrast, so the white reflection against the actual white background. Now I see it's following that line, but I actually want it on this line. So what I'm going to do is go back to where it departed, press delete, backspace, delete, and I'm back to where I wanted. So again, now I'm going to do left click, left click. It's a bit harder this because there really isn't much contrast here. Left click, left click, left click, left click. In fact, I'm not very happy with that little bit there. I want that a bit lower. So there we go, left click, and I'm going to keep going until I get back to an area of decent contrast. Really is very little contrast here, but it's a really good exercise. Now, what I'm going to do, that didn't quite, there we go, that's got that, and that's got that. So I'm just going to finish this shoe off. But one of you is probably shouting at the screen now, it's like, no, you want it to go the other way because you don't want the inside of the shoe to change colour. You're right, I don't. So, oh, and it's just done the same at the top there. So, area, not a lot of contrast again. So, just finish up. Okay, so I've got my selection there. But, oops, I didn't want this inside this piece of leather here, this beige leather, so I'm going to subtract it. So we'll just show you that tool again. So I'm going to select subtract from selection. I'm going to start down here in the corner. I'm going to go all the way around. That didn't quite work, so again I'm doing my left clicking. This is a really good thing to show. This is why I chose the shoe as one of the examples, because it's quite intricate, but when you can get used to making these kind of selections, you'll be very powerful in Photoshop, and you'll be able to do a lot of really cool stuff. But it's all about attention to detail. So I'm coming back round, I've got that. So nearly finished my selection. That, again, the little bit of contrast there didn't quite snap. So I'm just gonna manually do this around here. I think it's trying to get the contrast for the reflection to the right of it. I'm just going to manually tell it where to go. There we go. So it's picked up the contrast again. And then I'm going to click on the endpoint. And now, because I made that selection, it subtracted it. So now I only have the blue area of the shoe selected. So again, I'm going to go, first thing I do if I make a selection, I'm going to go save selection, type in, call it a name, I'll just call it shoe, click OK, I've got that selected, and I'm going to do a save as, and the next thing I'm going to do is save it as a PSD. So now I have my image and my layers and my selections saved within a Photoshop file. I'm going to unlock my background. And I'm going to use hue again, just to show you what it looks like with something with a lot of reflections. So the other one had a lot of shadows and a lot of contours. This has reflections, but I'll show you in the same way. It preserves them. It's very nice. Now you notice on this one, because instead of shadows, we've got reflections. The colours look a little muted. If I now do colorize, the colours seem to go a bit metallic, so it kind of almost preserves the colours. But if I can go saturation quite high, get some really nice bold colours coming out here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I'm zoomed in. You can see the artifacts on the image, and I think that's about the resolution it is. So you can see now it's actually a really nice picture. It's got some, I mean, I'd probably send that to Louboutin and probably make a fortune if they made shoes in that colour. So it's really powerful what you can do. Now you can do this with people's arms, people's faces, people's clothes. You can give them a bit of a tan, you can make them look paler. It's a very powerful tool, and the only way I can say to get better at doing this kind of thing is to just practice. So you've got your level there, and so your adjustment layer which we've created. Remember, you can, with the little icon, you can take it off to show what changes you've made. So there, I've made it a bit darker blue. If I change it to a totally different colour, full stop red, I can just hide that layer so I can check how my changes are looking. And that's essentially what we did in that lesson. Now there are some other files I'll show you. On Moodle you have a man wearing a t-shirt and a car. Now I'd advise to do the t-shirt one next because that takes a bit of practice because you've got some shadows around the waist. You need to be very accurate, so you can use that left click in small increments again. And the car is quite complicated because obviously you need to use that add and subtract tool to add things like the ring mirrors in, but then take things like the windows out, so you've only got the paint. I'll just show you quickly what I kind of mean by that. I think it might be useful if you watch me do that. So there's my car. So the first thing I want to do is get the white, just the white thing, but I don't think I want to draw around that because it will take ages. So I'm going to use my Magic Wand tool. My tolerance is at 30. Let's see what it picks up. Not enough, so I'm going to change my tolerance down to maybe 10. And no, still not enough. Maybe I'll take it up. Maybe we use 70. I always experiment with this. That selected a lot more. Okay, so we've got our arches. We've got almost none of our lights under the windows. I think that's a good selection. But what I want to do is I want to, it didn't select the ring mirror, so I want to add that. So I'm going to select my Magic Wand tool and I'm just going to draw around the mirror. So what this is going to do, hopefully, is I've now, oh sorry, I had it on subtract, so I'm trying to take something off that's already taken off. So I'll try that again. So I'm going to draw around the mirror. Now that has crawling ants around it. I want to add this little bit under the door because obviously I want the shadow. I want that to be part of it. Now mirrors look okay. I want this. Now I don't want this windscreen. It selected it. I want that to stay the colour it is. So I'm going to select subtract, because I want that to stay silver or the reflection. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to I've got the remove tool selected, and I'm just going to trace the windscreen out. So basically this will remove the windscreen from my current selection. I have to be a bit picky with this because it's a lack of contrast again. Now what I'm going to do now, I want to encompass this grey line. So I'm just going to make my tool go way out from where I want it, so I'm enclosing that crawling ant line to finish my selection off. There we go. So the windscreen is finished. Now, because I've done quite a bit on it, I've added the ring mirror, taken that out. What I'm just going to do, I want that little bit included as well because it's only a shadow, so I do want that. Sorry, I removed it then. I should have swatched my tool to add. So now I'm going to draw over that again. Enclose that selection. There we go. So I've got that now. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to save that because I don't want to have to do all that again. So if I make a mistake, I can always go back to this point by loading that selection. The lights, I don't want the lights in, so I'm going to select my remove from selection, and I'm just going to trace around the front lights. Oh, I see, lack of contrast there again, so I'm going to have to be quite careful with that, and click manual select all the way around. There we go, so I now have no lights. The fog lamps are already out, it's just the backlights now really. Most of these are already done, but I'm going to go around, select, I want to enclose this little crawling outline, go around, it's really a lot of contrast there, so it's picking it up. So I don't have these rear lights either now. So I think pretty much I've got everything. The door handles are a bit weird, so I might want to just, I'm going to use the ellipse. Oh, I dragged my selection there, so I'm just going to press Ctrl Z, and I want to make a lasso tool. So I'm just, I did it again. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to save it again just in case I mess it up, and I'm going to do, I'm going to click car, because I already saved it, so my current channel, and we're going to replace it, is okay. Okay, that's weird. I don't know why it's doing that, but I can just show you the, so I've been really picky on this. I'm going to go hue, I've just made an adjustment layer, and I can just slide. But because it's white, not a lot happens on white. So now I need to have a bit of a play. Colorize, that's a stronger colour, isn't it? Okay, so it's stronger. Maybe I need to use saturation a bit more. There we go, so I'm getting some colour. What if I take colorize off? It goes back to white. But maybe if I saturate it a bit more. See, this isn't working that well. As I said before, some things will work really well for some selections, but not for others. So maybe the hue isn't the right tool for this kind of big, bold white colour. So I'm going to delete that layer, and now I'm going to try, I need to load my selection, because I'm going to add an adjustment layer to it. Pick car, click OK, and now I'm going to use curves. Now if I choose red, I wonder what happens this time. It didn't work very well on the dress. Now that seems to be working really well. So if I add red to white. If I take away red, I basically leave blue and green. Blue and green is that colour. If I take some green out, I should just be left with blue. If I add more green, I'm going to get more green. That's a horrible colour. Who would buy that? So I'm going to take some green out, and I've got blue left. If I add blue, it goes brighter. If I take away blue, it starts going back to green. Now you see, because I've taken all my blue out, I basically have just green. So now this is where that's where it gets really strong. So this is where you can just have a play with things. If, say, we'll take all the green out as well, because I've taken all green and all blue, just got red left. So you can get some red colour. And it's just, just have a play with it. Again, I don't think that's particularly working very well for this. There might be another tool we can use. Oh, there we go. Red and green apparently makes yellow. So you can use different tools. Should we just have a look at one more? Should we just have a look at brightness? Just see what happens when we add some brightness. So I'm going to go select, load my selection. There we go. I've got car, got my call outs around it. Brightness. So I could just make it brighter, take some brightness out. Oh, like a silver colour. Add more contrast, take contrast out. Simple things like that. Have a play, get used to using these shapes, get used to using these these selection tools. Please get used to these add to selections and remove to selections. In case you make errors in your selections, it's easy to add or remove things to it. It speeds your workflow up massively. So that's it for this evening. I hope that kind of makes sense, and I shall see you all on Tuesday. Thank you very much.